All right, Jordan. So, well, I mean, take us back to the beginning. Not way the beginning, but coaching beginning. Start with the spring. You planned for one thing to coach here, then it changed. So, walk us through your thoughts of how that went, the nerves of if it was going to work for you.
So, the start of my time here, coming back to coach. Yeah. So, I mean, from the beginning, obviously, I had reached out to Coach Hugs for advice in terms of how to get into coaching. It's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Started to think about it as a player. I have an obsession and a passion for the game of basketball that I knew I never wanted to do anything outside of this game. So when I reached out to him, the thought process was either he can help me get somewhere, or there's positions opening up amongst all coaching staffs around the country, and I knew that. And just kind of reached out, see what I could do. Maybe it was player development, just get my foot in the door, something that I take pride in for myself in my playing career, and how I could kind of pass that on to people who are given a little bit more God-given things. You know, I figured if I was 5'10", fairly unathletic, not fairly, guy who could play in the Big 12, what could I do with somebody who's 6'7" with a 40-inch vertical, and has a lot of natural ability, and try to instill some of the work ethic and some of the nuance that I took upon myself in my own player development. So that was what I was going to try to do, and I moved out kind of on a handshake with Coach Huggins. There was no contract in place, just trying to figure it out as we go. And then obviously things happened, things changed. I was kind of left here. My fiance and I bought a house. We were in Morgantown and not sure if I'd have a job in Morgantown, so had to adjust on the fly and kind of get your feet wet in the coaching world, which is always changing very quickly. So it was a eventful time for me, nerve-wracking at times, chaotic for sure, but I've always kind of thought to be somebody who thrives in chaos and just finds opportunity throughout that. So I was blessed enough to have somebody like Coach Eilert give me the opportunity to be an assistant coach here. And we had many conversations about what it might look like. And he had me, pause some things that I was working on behind the scenes, as I didn't know who was going to be the coach here. And there was a point where I was potentially going to a Big Ten school to do player development and recruiting there. And Coach Eilert said, well, there might be some news in the next couple of days. Let's just wait. And I had plenty of faith in him, so I did that, and now we're here.
You said fiance. Do you have a date?
The weddings are expensive, which I'm finding out very quickly. So I told her we may need to wait a little longer in terms of doing what she wants to do. So we'll see. May 2025 is kind of our target date right now. Give ourselves a good year and a half. And be kind of settled more at that time. But, yeah, the rock's on the finger, so that's good. Thank you. She's a West Virginia girl.
Oh,
yeah, she's
okay.
from Weirden.
Okay.
Yep.
So now you're into the coaching. You wanted to do it. Is it what you thought? Different than what you thought?
Well, I always thought as a player, I always used to sit there and think, man, coaching's so easy. I don't know why they're always upset or grumpy or whatever. And now I see the flip side of that, and you realize, well, as a player, you have to worry about yourself, and that's pretty much it. Make sure you're doing your job well. Point guards is a little different. I don't want Kirk Reese to think he's just got to think about himself. He's got to think about everybody else. But that's what a coach does. He's got to think about all the moving pieces within an organization, within a team. And every decision affects every one of our guys right down the roster. So that's an adjustment for me, trying to think that way. I'd like to think I did that when I was a player, especially when I wasn't getting time, trying to take the focus off of myself and trying to still help us win, even if not on the floor as much as I'd like to be. So I think that's going to be a huge help for me in this adjustment as a coach. So that's been probably the biggest learning curve, and I don't think I realized the time that's required and spent inside the office. We get here at 6 a.m., get a lift in, and then we don't leave until the sun goes down typically, which is an adjustment for Olivia, my aforementioned fiance. So we're both getting used to it. But I tell her every day, and she asks me a lot, how do you feel? You think you made the right decision? Because thought about going to play overseas and trying to climb that ladder. Every day I tell her and anybody else who asks, best decision I've ever made in my life was getting into coaching. Absolutely in love with it, obsessed with it. Don't see myself doing anything for the rest of my life.
Jordan, like you were saying earlier, most guys who get into the profession start off scouting, or they start off, director, player personnel.
Sure.
They don't just jump right into being an assistant coach. So, I mean, that's kind of the situation you're in now. Make you, thoughts or nervous that it happened kind of quickly for you?
You know what? No, I wouldn't say nervous. I think it increased my focus level for sure. When you step in and you get your foot in the door at certain positions, your responsibilities are just less. That's the only difference. And I was kind of curious when Coach Eilert gave me the job, would it just be a pseudo assistant coach? Would I just be kind of helping out with the other assistants and trying to fill in gaps and holes where I can, which I would have been grateful for, but that's not the case. I'm blessed to have a full-time role where it's scouting, it's recruiting, it's a lot of things I've never done before, but I played basketball my entire life, so this is nothing new to me. And I'm really trying to lean into how to be a better leader for a small group of guys that I may be in charge of on a day-to-day basis. But more important than being a better leader is how to follow a leader, and we have a great one with Coach Eilert. So learning how to do that on a daily basis. I asked so many coaches when I got the job, how can I be a great assistant coach? And the common theme was lift up your head coach. Everything you do, lift up your head coach, make him look good. And it's pretty easy. He's a handsome fella, so he always looks good. But he's done such a great job in giving us assistant coaches an opportunity, especially myself, Coach Ruoff, and Coach Butler, Coach Johnson already being here, to step in year one and try to prove our worth. And I think he saw and delved deeply into who he was hiring in terms of what they could bring, and took a risk for sure in my position, being, I think, the youngest assistant coach in the Power Five. You're going to get funny looks, but he put his faith in me, and I don't take that for granted at any day of my life and my coaching career from here on out.
So, out on the recruiting trail, I mean, you were just a player last year.
Yeah. That was interesting. I went to my first AAU event and stood behind the ropes as a coach. And that was typically the first thing that any coach would say was, I just recruited you like 6 years ago. And it was sometimes awkward forgetting if I remember them or not. That was a little weird. But it's been good, getting out there, evaluating talent, looking at kind of what we've done here at West Virginia in the past, things we want to keep the same, things we want to do differently, talking to a lot of coaches on the recruiting trail. Everybody says networking. I just, try to be myself and talk to people. I think networking happens pretty naturally in our line of work. So it's been great. Got a chance to do a lot more travel than I expected. Like I said, you don't do that as player development typically, and I'm just trying to take advantage of every opportunity I get.
Along those lines, with how young you are, how important was it to build relationships with the players over the summer? And did you feel that you had to earn their respect in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think every coach does, but me more so than anybody else. And like I said, I've reached out to a lot of different people. Talked to Fran Fraschilla for a long time. When I first got hired, he was a young assistant coach, and another person Fran gave me a ton of advice. I got a booklet full of advice from him. And then there was another coach who, his name's Coach Carter. He was at Rick Carter. He was at DePaul. He recruited me there. And I reached out to him. He and I had a conversation, and I expressed a little bit of concern there because it's obvious, the elephant in the room is I'm maybe a year or two older than some of these guys who, are in their last COVID year or whatever it may be, right? So I'm their peer. And I knew that, and I wasn't going to change who I was just because there's a title change. I didn't think that was the right route to take, so I called Coach Carter, and we talked for a while and eventually got around to it where I was like, yeah, I'm trying to carry myself in a certain way where, I still maintain and earn the respect from players who are that close in age. And, I've never really been a yeller or anything like that. So I didn't think that would get through to players my age. So I told Coach Carter, I'm at a crossroads here. Like, how do I approach this? And he said, well, you just look at it like an NBA model. And that really struck home with me. He said, it's not me telling you what to do because I know more than you because I'm a coach and you're a player. We're both two men trying to solve a problem together on more of an equal playing field. Now that changes as your career goes on, and coaches approach that differently. But for my position right now, I think that's where I can have a lot of value, is bridging that gap between player and coach, and trying to work on a problem at a lateral level, in a sense. And I think that's where you earn and get that respect from players when you take that approach.
Last thing you just talked about, you come over here, you get a premier point guard to work with who has played a lot, played successfully, played in the tournament and the likes, and you're working with him. How did you approach that? And all of a sudden he gets suspended. How are you working, keeping him from dying of depression?
You're right. Yeah. No, Kerr's done a really, really good job all the way through the off season. Funny thing is he gave me a call. I've never met Kerr Kriisa prior to my time at West Virginia. This can't get me in trouble because I wasn't working for West Virginia at the time. There was nothing there. He called me just as hey, we're, similar build, similar play style, pass first, this and that. You went to West Virginia and left. I'm thinking about going there. Is there anything that you can kind of, key me in on so that I can, round that corner quicker? Or is this a good fit for me, I guess, is the real question. And, I told him how much respect I had for Coach Huggins at the time, and kind of let him make his own decision. And, what I think for Kerr, as he now transitions from Coach Huggins to Coach Eilert, is he's going to be put in a position of offensive spacing that might be a little bit different. It's not a secret. Coach Huggs has had his way of doing things, and it was very successful. There's a reason you're in the Hall of Fame. But for a point guard like Kerr Kriisa, we're trying to put him in space to make decisions at a fast pace that most point guards can't do. And his European background, it shines through every single practice. He makes plays and passes and moves guys around in a chess-like manner. So now, he's dealing with a 9-game suspension, and he's handling it with grace, which I respect. He's a competitor. He wants to be on the floor. But for these 9 games, he and I will continue to work and take practice with the approach that it's his games. He can't have a fall off. He's got a challenge. He's going to be coming back when we're in the thick of things and getting ready to go into the best league in America. And he's well aware of that and up for the challenge. But now our job as coaches is to keep him ready. And it's really, really easy to do that with somebody who loves basketball. I mean, he eats, breathes, sleeps. He lives basketball. And it's such a joy to be around. And it's a lot of fun watching how he does it. He does it differently than I do it a little bit. As much as he loves it, he and I have a different approach. He got more of that, I'll just walk out here and just do it. So we're trying to make sure that he's in the gym as much as we can. But he's so naturally gifted and smart. I don't want him hearing me say that really right now, but I do love him. He's great.
And Kerr's style of play, do you see a little bit of your style?
Yeah, I'm just better than Kerr, that's all. I just happen to be coaching now. No, Kerr's way better than I ever was, ever could be. He's at a different level of IQ than any player in the country, in my opinion. I think he's going to be so much fun to watch for the West Virginia fans. And he's really stepped up as a leader, too. I always laugh at him because he's got the language barrier, but he handles that great, too. He doesn't have a language barrier. He's got an accent. And he does well leading our guys with his accent. He's very good at that. He maintains a lightheartedness and a balance that we need to be a very good team, because at the end of the day, this is just a game. And he keeps that perspective within our guys and our staff, too. When you take things too seriously, you don't perform at the highest level. There's a perfect balance of being relaxed and locked in and Kerr does that every single day. It's a joy to watch. He's extremely talented, so excited to get him back when we can.
You talk about the elephant in your room being your age. What would you say some advantages are to your age, though, being in this position?
Well, there's a couple. We touched on the fact that I can kind of bridge that gap between player and coach. Our coaching staff as a whole is young, but me being the youngest, I can go to Kerr and we can have different conversations that he may not naturally have with other coaches. And that's, I think, part of being a good assistant as well, is the head coach wants something done, and he's going to communicate that in his own way. And it's not always going to be received or whatever by the whole team, as well as it can be received from a separate conversation he may have with an assistant coach. And where I drive that point home that Coach Eilert makes, I think I can really ingrain Coach Eilert's philosophy in our guys and get them to buy in. We talk about buy-in all the time, and it's something that I feel that separates good from great teams in my career, even looking back into high school. The best teams that I've been a part of have full buy-in. There's a full trust, and it sounds so easy. But I always like to say it's simple. It's a simple concept, but it's not easy. It's simple, not easy. So that's where my youth kind of becomes a plus for me. And then the other thing is I can still get out there and move around with them as well. It's one thing. I won't be able to do it forever in my coaching lifetime, but for right now I can get out there and not just tell them what to do, but show them what to do or what I'm asking. Same thing with Coach Ruoff, Coach Butler, and Coach Johnson. We've all heard the stories of open gym. We get out there and compete.
Jordan, a lot of times when a guy transfers, bridges are burned. Even from the beginning, Hugs talk didn't sound like that was with you. And most guys that transfer would never come back. So why did you not burn the bridge? How'd that work?
Well, I mean, it was natural to not burn the bridge. And like I said, when Kerr calls and asks me about, what he's kind of getting himself into, I was completely open and honest with him, just like I was open and honest when I transferred out of here to Coach Huggins. We sat down and had an emotional conversation after my junior year here, after we lost to Syracuse. And I told him what my goals were and why I didn't think I'd be able to reach them here at West Virginia, and how that had nothing to do with him and more to do with me, and the fit and all this stuff we could get into, right? But the undertone of the entire conversation was how much I loved him, and I love this state, I love this university, and it'll always be home. And I said that, but I meant it. And when I got an opportunity to come back, like I told you in the beginning, I did it on a handshake. There was no paper signed. We moved back to Morgantown, West Virginia, bought a house, and planted our first roots. So this will always be a special place to me.
Jordan, your other 2 point guards you have now, what do you think of Kobe, Jeremiah, and how do you make it work when they're not Kerr, but they're who's on hand right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're different players. They have different skill sets and attributes than Kerr does. And we'll start with Kobe. It's been a joy to watch Kobe and his increase in confidence. And it happens first in practice, and you watch a build-up in confidence, and then it restarts in a game. When the lights turn on, it's a different ball game. But even in that first game against Missouri State, I felt very confident in the fact that you could see Kobe playing with emotion. And when there's joy in the game of basketball, once again for a player, it's a special thing to see, and there's good stuff coming. So I think that's where we're at right now with Kobe. He's extremely talented. He's a big physical guard, like you said, different than Kerr. But that's great for us. We are going to have an opportunity right now to get Kobe back to a level that he was at when he first arrived here at West Virginia. And for whatever reason, he wasn't at that when we got him. Doesn't matter. We knew where we had to go with him, and that was to get him back to enjoying and loving the game of basketball, which is what we're starting to see on a daily basis here. And I think it's invaluable, his 9 games that he's going to get right now for us to lead us, and he's going to do a great job like he did against Missouri State in a game where we hit adversity, obviously, and trying to keep him building on momentum. We talk about momentum a ton, and how to create it and how to continue it. And now Jeremiah is a different player than those two as well. Never played a game of basketball, college basketball until Missouri State. Limited experience and quite a learning curve for him this summer, to where he probably didn't expect how much he would, be relied upon, if at all, this first year for us. But he's versatile, he's dynamic, 6'5", 6'6", whatever he may be, and athletic. There's a ton to work with there. And my biggest thing with Jeremiah right now is staying in the gym, is consistency. Once again, going back to simple, not easy. Getting better in basketball is simple. It's not easy. It's simple in the fact that all you got to do is go in the gym every single day. It's hard. It's not easy in the fact that you have to go in the gym every single day. You're going to be sore. There's going to be good days and bad days. You're going to play some days. You're not going to play some days. You might be banged up, whatever it may be. But going in the gym every single day is what he's really taken a step in. And he's seeing it pay off. He did a terrific job on our opener and taking care of the ball. And once again, it may be a small thing for the casual fan, but the way I look at it as a coach is something that we can build off of and create momentum off of.